Dorian, hi, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I'm jealous that you're in LA though. I feel like I'd love to switch the London vibes for the LA vibes.
Yeah, but you're probably not jealous of our $7 gas. That's not so fun right now.
I was in New York just recently and what was it? It was like when you went to book an Uber, it basically said there's a fuel surcharge now. And it was like crazy, crazy, crazy. The world is a weird place.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique time and inflation. I was at Target the other day and I'm like, really? Toilet paper is $35? Gasp. But it's a unique time that we're in.
How much toilet paper are we talking about here for $35?
Oh, this is like a big roll, like the 24 pack, which as a single lady, I probably do not need 24 rolls of toilet paper.
I love that we're starting our episode with toilet paper. I'm still kind of surprised that it's $35 even as a 24 pack. Like it still seems really high. And I'm going to get back to you on what it is here in the UK.
I was shocked and did not buy it. So
lol. Yeah, don't love that for you. Don't love that for LA. LA and the toilet paper. I'm not into it.
But we do have the sun and the waves. And I was a mermaid in my previous life. So I'm in my happy place.
I love that. I reckon I probably would have been a mermaid in my previous life too. That's so cool. Love that for us. Introduce us to your brand, who you are. What's a bit of the ethos for anyone who might not know what it is yet?
Absolutely. So Undefined is clean, conscious, inclusive plant magic. My mission is really to democratize beauty and undefine what the beauty and wellness space looks like. Because historically, she's had one face, and that face, no disrespect, was skinny, blonde, affluent, white. And I believe we all deserve access to high quality products that don't cost your firstborn child. So I created Undefined to really bridge that gap by elevating, beautiful plant wisdom, but accessibly priced, as well as giving a nod to inclusivity, which comes to life via my packaging, as well as my supply chain strategy. So everything is very intentional. I live at the intersection of beauty and wellness because I have both ingestibles as well as skincare and some other really exciting developments and innovation in other categories coming down the pipeline. But ultimately, at a high level, Undefined is really giving people tools to really tackle modern day stress, which shows up, on your skin as well as just your internal well-being. So it's all about giving people the right tools to empower them to live their best lives.
I love that. And I particularly love your packaging. When I was looking at all of your products online, I was like, wow, I feel like there's a story with the packaging because it's just so cool and different.
So this new collection that launched last fall is called the R&R collection. So it's focused on the benefits of adaptogenic mushrooms to rescue, repair, reset, and replenish your skin barrier. So at the end of the day, it's all about skin health. And I chose inclusive illustrations that actually tie back to either the ingredient story or the end benefit. So for example, this little baby here, the cleanser, it has this beautiful Asian American illustration because the ingredient story has green tea, gotu kola, shiitake mushroom, which has its heritage in traditional Chinese medicine. So I wanted to give a nod to that cultural context that elevated these ingredients and almost decolonized beauty. And then on the flip side, my bestseller, Day Serum, has this beautiful African American goddess because the focus is hyperpigmentation and brightening. And the more melanin you have in your skin, the more rich you are for hyperpigmentation. Although we all want bright, healthy skin. So it's really a universal need state, but just giving a nod to that community that could use it the most.
Oh, amazing. Incredible. It looks super, super cool. And yeah, I haven't seen that, I wouldn't say at all on packaging. It's really different. Love.
Yeah, I think Undefined was probably one of the first brands to embark upon this, diversity in action, I like to say. But honestly, it has been so heartwarming because I constantly get DMs of people that discover me at Whole Foods or Target. And it's like, this is the first time they feel seen. And, representation matters and seeing is believing is becoming. And so I do think there's power in these small decisions that can really, change the beauty landscape.
100%. And I really think it's like, the kind of thing that catches someone's eye when they're walking past you in the aisle and immediately understand what it's about, Like there's no kind of like having to research first. It's like, oh yeah, I think I've got what's going on here. Like pick it up and then read the backstory and be like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the packaging is really an education tool too, because it kind of talks through what is some of the plant magic that's in the formula. So people can start to understand that even if they don't buy my products, oh, licorice root does this. Niacinamide does that. And so I really want to, be inclusive. And for me, inclusivity is not just about the color of your skin. It's about bringing people into the conversation that have been historically left out. Maybe because they don't know where to start. So it's an information gap. And so the education piece is important, or it's, they can't afford it. So there's the economic inclusivity and ensuring that everyone has access, because this collection is priced under $30.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Amazing. Let's rewind a little bit to, why you were getting interested in starting your own brand and what was leading to that moment.
Yeah, so I am a beauty and wellness veteran. So going back to the beginning of time, I started my career in retail. So I guess before that, UCLA undergrad, go Bruins. Hopefully we'll make it all the way in the Final Four. I'm kind of a sports nut. And so while I was an undergrad, I did all of my internships in advertising and a little stint in music. So I thought I was going to, launch my career as this like high power advertising exec. And then I realized that advertising didn't pay any money. So I made the decision my senior year to kind of switch gears, and I started in retail at the executive training program at this company called Robinsons May, which, rest in peace, Robinsons May, doesn't exist anymore. Macy's acquired it probably 6 months after I started. So I moved on to Macy's, really understanding how to build assortments, think through product planning. Then ultimately from there, I went to business school because I really wanted to get back to the consumer piece of I'm a very curious person. And so I like problem solving and connecting dots. And I find that marketing is kind of a key area for that. So I went to Harvard Business School, really learning kind of general management. And then I went to General Mills. So a large food conglomerate here in the US in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I was there for a couple of years working on some really amazing brands like Chex Mix, as well as Yoplait. But I really missed the tangibility of beauty. So I had interned at J&J Beauty working on hair care. You see, I have a lot of hair. So hair care is a very special place in my heart. And I'd done some internships in business school, also working in beauty. And so I had this amazing opportunity that fell into my lap at this company called Kendo. And at that point, no one knew what Kendo is. People still might not know what Kendo is.
I don't know what Kendo is. Please tell me.
So at the time, it was a division of Sephora. You know Sephora, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So it was a division of Sephora creating their white space brand. So Marc Jacobs, Kat Von D, now Fenty. And so it was this little incubation engine within the larger LVMH family. And that's really where I learned all things beauty and how to really win within the prestige landscape. So I did that for a couple of years. And, when I joined, I think there was maybe 30 people. When I left, it was about 250. So super high growth, very scrappy, roll up your sleeves. It was a GSD culture, which I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but get shit done. Like that was the mindset. It was like, we are going to take over the beauty world, take names and, GSD. And so did that for a couple years. Then I went to Sundial, which at that point was a Black-owned, family-owned company. Shea Moisture was their largest brand. And I came on board to essentially do what I was doing at Kendo, but for Madam C.J. Walker, which was this new beauty line that was taking the rich heritage of Madam C.J. Walker herself, which, if you're not familiar, she was the first self-made Black millionaire in the US in the early 1900s. So this is before women had rights, before Black women had rights. She really built her empire, really through word of mouth. And she was the Mary Kay before there was Mary Kay. And so the goal was to take this heritage of this icon in the Black community and bring her to the modern day curly girl. Then I went to CoverGirl Cosmetics briefly, didn't necessarily enjoy that role, but learned something from it. And from there, I launched Undefined. So I've been kind of across corporate beauty roles. But this entrepreneurship journey, I will say, is very different because, in these larger corporations, there's teams, there's money, there's support. And I am a bootstrap team of one currently. So it's definitely been a fun journey and roller coaster to really do things differently and take a very different approach to brand building.
Holy moly, what a journey. So much experience. Definitely like a veteran in the beauty industry. Gosh. Wow.
Yeah, I've had multiple lives.
How do you sort of think about like you you had all this experience, you knew the blueprint of building a brand within those walls of having, funding and team and all the bits already kind of figured out. When you were starting to launch your own brand, what were those early steps? What did you need to do to get started as a woman of one?
Yeah. So as I was thinking about, my next steps after leaving CoverGirl, I was actually working for General Mills again as an internal consultant. And that's where I started to ideate. It's like, okay, Dorian, you've now built brands for other people. It's time to build one for yourself, and really taking kind of the toolkit that I've learned kind of across each of those different roles, because they were all very different and added something very different to like my learnings. And ultimately, I think, entrepreneurship is about leadership. And leadership transcends, individual roles within companies. And so as I was thinking about kind of how I wanted this to come to life, literally had a ginormous Post-it note with my best friend, who she was also in the beauty space. And we're like ideating names and concepts. And I'm like a big idea person. And we'll say sometimes I need to corral the cats and get a little bit more focused. And so there was a couple different, areas that I wanted to play. I also as I take a step back, it was almost like building this umbrella idea, and I had multiple little collections within this broader vision, which came to life as Undefined, which is nice because it's all about, breaking the rules, not following a playbook and doing things very differently. So I think it gave me the legs to do things, unconventional. And so where I started was ideating on a name and then making sure that I had the ability to have a URL, an Instagram handle. I then started embarking upon kind of the product development journey and really thinking about what I wanted to bring to life and how I'm going to be differentiated in the space. This was 2018, so very different, space than we are now. I actually started on the CBD side of the business. And this is right when CBD, which is one of the major cannabinoids in cannabis, became legal in the US. And so I was an early mover in that, the wild west, we'll call it, of CBD. But the one thing that I noticed as I was thinking about the space or looking at the space is that a lot of the brands were either A, very expensive, or B, crunchy granola, they look like they came out of an apothecary. And I felt that there was an opportunity to kind of elevate the conversation and demystify the plant magic, but also do so in a way that's fun, fresh, unapologetic. At the end of the day, it's beauty. It's not, it shouldn't be so serious. And so that was the angle that I took. And I launched at Indie Beauty Expo in fall of 2018, and I haven't looked back since. And I will tell you my little secret. I actually made the decision to launch less than a month before the show. And so it was not this grand vision. I was at Cosmoprof, which is a big trade show in Vegas, looking at suppliers and vendors. And I met up with Richard Dennis, who was my boss at Sundial. He was the founder and CEO of Sundial. And he's this visionary. He basically grew Sundial to this, multi-million-dollar company, bootstrapped, in a very different, context. And he was also breaking rules. And really, his thing was desegregating the hair care category, because historically it was like, here is your Black ethnic hair care and here's your other hair care. And he was like, no, that's segregation. We should normalize hair is hair is hair. So met up with him, and he gave me the feedback that I'm never going to be ready, launch, and no matter what, I'm going to learn something. And so it was really this light bulb moment that, you know what, I'm going to jump off the cliff and I'm going to build my wings on the way down. And guess what? I can evolve. I can pivot. How I, launch day one doesn't have to be how the brand looks and feels at day 365. And so that has always been my mindset, that I will test and learn, and I will, use these learnings to then continue to grow and evolve, listening to my consumer until I can find, a product market fit. And so, coming out of Cosmoprof, which was July, I launched in August, which meant doing things very scrappy. So literally in my mother's garage, filling products, labeling products, creating very scrappy visuals for my booth. And so it definitely was an intense month. And big thanks to this guy named Orlando, who was my creative visionary who I still work with today. Because if it wasn't for him, I would not have launched, or my family who was literally helping me fill bottles in the garage.
This is crazy. I have so many questions. So you launch in the August, was it, or the September at the expo?
August 22nd, 2018. Which is actually an important date because 22 is a very important number to me. I'm kind of witchy and spiritual. So 22, it was the perfect stars aligning. And when I signed up for the show, I was the last booth in the very back corner. And so the universe had my back and knew that that was kind of the moment for me to kind of birth the brand. And coming out of the show, I was voted one of the consumer favorites.
That's amazing.
Which was like, a shock and surprise, but it really gave me the fuel to say, okay, people are watching and they're digging what I'm doing. So it gave me kind of the momentum to continue and evolve.
I love that. When you say you launched within a month, just so I'm clear, do you mean like you'd already gone through product development with a lab, you already had products, or you literally you just developed the products in your garage and then you were taking those X number of products to the expo and like that was like launching it to the world?
I had started working on Undefined in February of 2018. And so I had this grand idea of having this multi-SKU collection, solving these key pinch points. And actually, one of the products is still in development because it's taken that long, because it's such a tricky category. And hopefully, knock on wood, it's going to launch this year. But so there was multiple products that I was working on. And there was only one that was close enough. And because I made this decision to launch, I literally couldn't get on their production line. So they're like, "Okay, Dorian, we believe in what you're doing. We will basically batch some bulk for you. You can pick up these gallons, like 25 gallons of bulk," which I literally picked up in my car, and hand fill it because I bought like a filling. Actually, at that point, I did not have a filling machine. We were literally hand pouring these into bottles with a funnel.
How many bottles are we talking about?
I think for the show, because I was testing out the right sizing and there's two different sizes. It was 100 ml and a 50 ml. So I think in total we had filled maybe 500 bottles. And it was messy everywhere. We were covered in, it's called Glow Elixir. And so we smelled like, roses and geraniums. We were definitely glowing. My family was like, if I smell this again, I'm going to kill you. But yeah, we were filling it in my mom's garage and labeling it and boxing it and getting ready to pack it in a suitcase so I can ship off or fly out to New York. So it was definitely an adventure.
I think that's what they call elbow grease, but in your scenario, it was elbow rose and geranium grease.
Yes. But you learn so much by getting hands-on. And as much as it was a painful experience, I think it helps me on my journey.
Absolutely, for sure. Getting involved in the action. Gosh, I want to spend a little bit more time in this phase of building the business to understand the money piece of the puzzle, because we love to talk about money on the show, love to understand, how much you spent to get started and how you were financing it and how you were thinking about the money piece. Like obviously building a CPG brand requires working capital. Let's discuss.
Yeah, so I'm currently self-funded. So every, from the beginning of time, it was Dorian's investment. Luckily, I've worked across these large companies and I've always been very frugal. My friends would call me cheap. I call it frugal. So I had amassed the savings just from, working. I started working when I was like 14. So I've always just been kind of I've got to stay busy. And a lot of times my busyness equals money because I'm creating, I'm doing. I was a waitress for a long time, which I really loved. And so that, put money in my pocket. And so when I launched, I want to say, because I've always done I think a good job of mitigating risk. So I will do things in small scale. I mean, I only made whatever the 500 units or whatever it was for that show because that was the minimum of the bulk requirement in like their 25 gallons or whatever their minimum was. And so I worked with, buying glass off the shelf, local here in the US. So it was all of these little things that I did where I was, being very conscious that I will probably evolve and I don't want to have so much inventory that, is a waste. And so I probably spent $6,000 But half of that $6,000 was actually the booth fee for Indie Beauty Expo. It was a very expensive show. And so like the actual products themselves, it wasn't that expensive because, the labor, me and my family, I don't know if I paid them. I paid them maybe in hugs or love. Or maybe like, I don't know, bought them some pizza. I'm the oldest of 8, so I have a lot of siblings that, pitched in to help, and friends. If any of my friends listen, thank you, friends, for helping me pour products back in the day. And so it wasn't a very expensive execution. It was really, let's, invest a small amount of money. And then every dollar that comes in from a profit standpoint, I'm investing back into the brand. And now fast forward, 3 years later, I'm still self-funded. I don't actually pay myself. So everything has been a labor of love, and everything that I do, I pour back into this business. But luckily, I've had privilege and opportunity to win some amazing grants that have given me equity-free money. And that has been kind of the economic engine to help fund, inventory. And I wouldn't even say marketing, because actually all of my growth to date has been organic. I actually haven't spent any money on marketing outside of like these events that I've done, which I guess they are a form of marketing, but I haven't done traditional like performance driven, I haven't done Facebook ads or anything like that. But it's also because when I started on the CBD side, there were so many handcuffs. So I actually couldn't. So I had to actually build the business very different. And it was this, I'm going to build a slow and steady foundation. So then I can, have this, foundation to then grow upon. I think also, and I've never actually talked about this, but reflecting on some of the decisions some of my business school classmates had taken to like raise a bunch of money, and then you get on this hamster wheel. I think I might have had a little bit of like PTSD through watching their journeys, that I knew that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have the flexibility to pivot. And I felt that if I'd raised money, I then would have this monkey on my shoulder dictating decisions. And so I chose the path to grow definitely slower, but slow and steady wins the race, they say. So it was a very different approach. And I do think that ultimately I probably will have to raise money. But I hope that now that I've actually shown there's traction, I have, large retailers and some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline, that'll also make me a bit more valuable as I embark upon fundraising. And the other piece, and it's something that I think is probably not talked about a lot, but being a African-American woman, and there's not that many African-American women that have raised a lot of money, I also felt that because representation matters, I wanted to make sure that this business was going to be successful before I go out and ask someone for money, because I felt that if I was to fail, and knock on wood, I'm not going to fail, that's then going to reflect negatively on the next entrepreneur behind me. And so I wanted to be very conscious, because, my decisions matter to the broader ecosystem of just entrepreneurship and Black entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. Gosh.
Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't that way, but it unfortunately is.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Gosh, okay, I have so many questions because we've covered like a little bit of the beginning, but like a lot at the same time. So I just want to keep on this early, like you've done the booth, you've done this, like it's a trade show called Expo West. Is that what you said? Expo West.
Oh, no. So Expo West, which is a lovely trade show, is not where I launched. It was called Indie Beauty Expo. It's no longer around.
Oh, okay. Indie Beauty Expo. Okay.
They were the owners of Beauty Independent, which is a trade publication. And they used to have these amazing events. I actually, visited a bunch before I launched and after, because it was just this community of like indie brands that are like just scrappy and like supporting each other. And they're still friends to this day that, we're constantly helping each other, that I'd met at these trade shows. And so rest in peace. I wish they would bring them back. They're not going to. But if I hadn't launched there, I honestly don't know where I would be, because that was like the first piece of coverage that I got from like a press. It was, an introduction to retailers who chanced upon my booth and have, kind of watched my journey. And so I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason. And it's this beautiful spider web of life that you never know who you're going to meet that's going to open up a door. And so, yeah, if I hadn't launched there, who knows?
Who knows? Oh, well, I think you would have crushed it regardless of where you launched, truly. You're amazing. If you had to kind of break down how you got your first 100 customers after the expo and then how you got your first 1,000 customers, what were the kind of key things in those early days that were kind of getting you traction after the expo?
Yeah, because I didn't have the ability to do traditional ads, everything was driven by word of mouth. And the word of mouth was actually driven by events. So I would do a lot of these local events that were like not flea markets, but like craft fairs. But that doesn't sound sexy. Like they're sexier than like craft fairs. West Coast Craft is a big one, Renegade Craft. And so I would do these shows across the nation. So Chicago, New York. I did South by. They had like a little wellness expo. And so I would do these events and people would chance upon my booth. And I actually would use these opportunities as a consumer insight tool to understand, what is stopping you. So one, do you know CBD and the benefits? What's stopping you from actually trying it? And so like it would be a learning opportunity for me to then sharpen how I tell the story and how I educate just around the plant magic. And as I would meet people at these events, it was like this word of mouth, evangelical experience where then that's how people would find out about the brand, shop me, on my website. And so it was really grassroots, boots on the ground, word of mouth.
Oh my gosh. But that's crazy. I'm still like, but how? Like, what else? Like, how do you get to having this huge brand just by one-to-one conversations? Like, what were the milestones that kind of leapt you forward?
Ooh, I've actually never really thought about the milestones, but it was honestly these events, which again, that's not necessarily scalable because it meant me traveling across the nation myself. And I normally would be the only one at the booth, setting it up, working the booth, breaking it down, while I'm trying to manage everything else within kind of the, entrepreneurship journey. And so, yeah, I didn't really sleep a lot, but
You had nice products to look great.
yes, I'm not only the founder, I'm also a user of the products, my 38-year-old skin. So because I was a team of one, I was extremely flexible. I didn't have to be accountable to anyone. And so like if I was exhausted one day, guess what? I'm not going to work. And so it was actually, a very interesting time. And then later in 2019, which actually this is another key milestone. So I'm always thinking about how can I solve a problem? I'm a very like problem solution person. And chatting with another entrepreneur friend who went to undergrad with me at UCLA, she also had a beauty brand and she had a physical brick and mortar store. And we were at, I believe, there's a platform called Hello Alice, which is all about connecting women business leaders. And we're at this like Hello Alice event, which was really amazing. And she basically was like, she wants to focus on her brand and get rid of the store. And I was like, I actually could use a store to use it as a standalone space to tell the story and educate because the CBD category needs so much education. This is 2019, so this is before it was a commonplace. And so we basically struck up a deal where I was going to take her space and I would keep her products in the store. And then I realized that, Undefined at that point had 2 SKUs. I wasn't going to build out a store for 2 SKUs. So Undefined Collective was born, which was a multi-branded retail platform. It was 50 brands focused on conscious capitalism. So all brands in the store were female-founded, minority-owned, LGBTQ, local, or CBD. So half the store was CBD, broken out by category. So it was like beverage, edibles, skincare, tinctures. And so it really was your one-stop shop to come in and get educated around CBD and other conscious brands. I even had a tincture bar, which I equated to like a wine bar. So you can come up for free, taste the different tinctures, which were all female founded because they all had a different, cannabinoid ratio or different taste profile. And, where the hemp was farmed, it, changes the experience. And so it was this artisanal experience, but also a tool to educate around CBD. And in the process, I also just met some amazing people that are still on my journey today because they were part of my collective. And it's so amazing to just, watch some of these brands blow up. In fact, one of them was on Shark Tank last week. And I'm like thinking about her one little deodorant SKU that was on my shelf. And now she's like killing it.
Was it Sarah's brand?
Yes.
I saw her Instagram post today and I was like, yeah, girl, love that for you.
Yeah, so Curie was one of the brands on my non-CBD side of the store. And so again, this was also an opportunity that came to life in about a month. And so I found out I had the space, literally had to paint, build out fixtures, build an assortment. I think what I'm learning actually is that I work well under pressure. And so I kind of need these like burning platforms and like deadlines to kind of keep me moving. And so it was like an idea. And then we launched on summer solstice again, because I'm kind of witchy. It was a beautiful opportunity. And my family worked the store. So again, getting my family involved. My mom, who was one of the first Black female sergeants for the CHP, which is the California Highway Patrol. So like our policing system. So like, I grew up in this just say no to drugs household. She was like literally the store manager. And so she was this like ex-cop turned CBD evangelist managing the store.
That sounds amazing. Does the store still exist?
No. So
COVID.
So I had the store for about 4 months in this location in Oakland, which was an amazing location, very well trafficked. It was a great growth engine, both from an economic standpoint, but also just elevating the other brands. Because again, 1 + 1 = 5 when indie brands come together. And that was the whole, promise. It was like, join my platform. You can do free events. Like, let's all win. And did that for a couple months. And the plan was to actually take that concept and do it in LA. So I moved to the Art District, which is this kind of cool, funky area in downtown LA. I got a live workspace. So I built out a full showroom downstairs. I lived upstairs. And then COVID. So yeah, I built it all out. And then unfortunately, I couldn't open because this was literally right when COVID started. And so I ultimately made the decision to like let that concept go. But also as a team of one, I recognize that I only have so much mental bandwidth, and I was starving Undefined Beauty in order to allocate so much time to Undefined Collective. So it served its purpose. I met some amazing people. Actually, again, the platform and the retail experience actually informed my innovation pipeline, because at that point, I only had topicals, and I recognized that, wow, ingestibles is really where people were gravitating towards because it's the most common use of CBD. And so it informed my development of Glow Bars, which were my vegan CBD chocolates, as well as Glow Drops, it's a beauty tincture. And so it was really solving the pinch points that I recognized when people were coming into store. And so like infusing other functional botanicals, check. Making sure it doesn't taste like dirt, check. Making sure that it's priced under $50, check. And so, that experiment into retail informed Undefined Beauty's evolution as well.
It was like your focus group, but like supersized.
Yes. Again, it's always about learning. I feel like as an entrepreneur, nothing is a failure. It's all about just learning. It's just all about learning. And so it's kind of like reframing, what failures, air quotes, can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We hear that a lot on the show. 100%. It's a moment to learn. It's a moment to grow. What's working for you now? Since you had to close the stores, you had to then realign focus, launch new products. What's been kind of the last 2 years?
Yeah, so I think what's unlocked a lot of growth for me was actually shifting away from CBD. So because unfortunately, the category still has a lot of regulatory hassles. I made the decision last year to embark upon this new collection, the one you see behind me, the R&R collection. And actually, the impetus started as I was working on Glow Bars, which were my vegan chocolates, because I wanted to make sure they were infused with adaptogens. So I partnered with this female chocolatier in the Bay Area, and we're literally like in her kitchen, like mixing powders and potions to create these chocolates. And as we were building these out, I was like, hey, why don't we create 2 that don't have CBD? And so we did these recipes and we launched them. And that was kind of the first step towards the R&R collection, which is focused on adaptogenic mushrooms, sans CBD, so no CBD. Because actually, a lot of benefits that these mushrooms can have mirror a lot of the same things that CBD does. As you think about the ability for it to rebalance the homeostasis within your system. Like that's what adaptogens do. They adapt to what you individually need. And so it was kind of this light bulb moment again, like, let's do some development without CBD. And I was meeting retailers at events and they're like, Dorian, we love the brand. We love you, but we can't take CBD. Let us know when you have something not CBD. And so that was kind of also in the back of my head. And so I embarked during COVID on development of the R&R skincare collection, which is a full line. There's a cleanser, a day serum, a night serum, a moisturizer, an exfoliator, a mineral mist, and now an SPF. So it's kind of your full stop from a skincare standpoint. And it's really about simplifying your skincare regimen. It's not about, 20-step Korean skincare routine. It's about how can these individual products solve multiple skincare concerns in an easy to understand, easy to afford way. And so by launching this new collection, it actually unlocks a lot of growth. So I launched the collection in August. So August, so around like my anniversary of the brand. And I also launched nationwide with Whole Foods. So that was kind of my first big retail partnership, in 500 stores.
Oh my gosh. And I know that you're in like Target and all these other cool stores. What is your kind of like key piece of, advice or insight into getting into those stores? Like obviously a lot of people listening into the show are kind of building brands. They're looking at those retailers and being like, oh, that's my dream. I want to get into Target or I want to get into Whole Foods. What's your key piece of advice for those folks listening in?
Yeah, in terms of getting in the door, again, it's these events. I had met Amy Jargo, who's no longer at Whole Foods, at Indie Beauty Expo. And so we had met at this trade event and, we became friends and, she was following my journey and she was, one of the people that wanted to take a risk on Undefined, as an indie brand who has no marketing budget, team of one. And so it was really the relationship that allowed her to have faith in what I could build. And then for Target, also events. So I guess my first interaction, well, maybe not the first, but one important interaction was, two interactions. Through Undefined Collective, we would do a lot of events together because it's a shared resource and allows us to kind of peacock and seem like we're bigger than we are. I was at BeautyCon, and so I had a booth at BeautyCon. I believe it was like five brands. And one of the buyers from Target approached the booth and was like, I've been watching you. I love this. Let's stay in touch. That would have been, I don't know, maybe summertime. And then I ended up doing another event in Atlanta that Target was sponsoring with Essence. So Essence is they do a lot of events. It's a magazine. And so I did the Essence Target pop-up, which again was sponsored by Target. Also did a pitch competition. So I won some money, which actually funded the booth, which was nice, win-win. And, it was just engaging with the Target buyers that ultimately landed me in the Target Takeoff program, which is their accelerator, which gave me kind of a peek behind the curtain and, really gave me the tools to launch successfully at Target. I'm only a month in, but off to a great start. Actually, my new product, Sun Serum, is actually sold out in my inventory. So I've had to cut cases. So it's like a blessing and a curse, I guess, but it'll be back in stock in a couple of weeks. I can fulfill orders to Target and Whole Foods.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
And so the advice I would actually give is be very thoughtful on how you're building your business, because as you think about retail, it's an expensive proposition, but it could be powerful to building, brand awareness, which is kind of how I think about retail. It's like, I can't afford a, billboard or a TV commercial. So the shelf and, those walking the shelf, that is my billboard. And so it's, that's how I kind of think about wholesale, but it's a very expensive proposition. So making sure you're building enough margin into your cost of goods so that way you can fund retail. Because of course, every retailer is going to have different kind of margin expectations, but at a high level, it's typically 50%. So if you don't have enough cushion within just your cost of goods structure, it's going to make it very difficult to launch into retail. And then also just be very thoughtful on who you decide to partner with, because Undefined is a very purpose-driven approach. And I didn't mention this, but one key pillar is called conscious capitalism, which I evolved from the retail concept, which means across my supply chain, I partner with female-founded, minority-owned, and LGBTQ businesses because as a business owner, I can empower other like-minded business owners through my voting with my dollar. So like my warehouse is female founded, my contract manufacturer is minority owned. And so it's all of these little things behind the scenes that is really focusing on doing good and doing well at the same time by elevating other communities, that have been historically, not given a seat at the table. I've also taken that lens as I think about my retail partnerships because I want to make sure that they also have similar values. Because for me, it's not just about profit, it's about doing things the right way. And so Target, as a good example, has made a big commitment to really helping bridge the gap within the Black community and helping to support Black-owned brands, as well as just local initiatives that they do to, invest back into the local communities. And so I wanted to be very thoughtful about who I decide to partner with. Same with Whole Foods. They do a lot from a local standpoint to amplify local brands.
I love that. That's so cool. Wow. You've all the things are going on for you right now. Holy moly.
Yeah, and there's so much more. Because the brand is really about democratizing beauty and wellness, again, being very thoughtful about who I'm partnering with. I just announced today that I launched with Vitamin Shop. So I'm in 450 vitamin shops across the nation. So as people are going in to buy their supplements so that way they can focus on their wellness journey, they can also walk on over to the skincare aisle and pick up their adaptogen infused skincare. And so that was also being very thoughtful. I'm also going on air with HSN in 2 weeks. So that'll be exciting to really tell the brand story to a very different audience who's maybe not so skincare savvy. And so it's going to be around educating, normalizing, and demystifying some of the plant magic. So excited about that too.
Holy moly. You deserve a million pats on the back. That's crazy. How many stores are you in total across all your retailers? And I'm just asking this as a fact of for someone who is bootstrapped, that is beyond. That's huge.
Yeah, and actually, let me do that. I'm doing the math. I've actually never calculated this before. So drum roll, please. I'm in 1,235 stores.
What the Mackie? That is crazy. Holy goodness.
I'm going to write that down so that way I remember.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm just mind blown. I imagine but are you still a one-person show? Is that what you said?
I am, and I have the gray hair
I don't understand.
to show for it. Well, so I think where it gets tricky is that because there's so much to do, recruiting takes time. And so I just don't have the mental bandwidth to say, okay, I need to focus on recruiting. And so I end up on this, it's a slippery slope, but I've recognized that now is the time. I must bring on support or else I'm going to, I want to make sure I'm maximizing these opportunities and I need to build marketing. So because everything to date has been organic, now is the time that I have these retail channels to really invest into core brand building. So that way there is brand awareness because it's not going to be a situation where you build it and they're going to come. And within these channels, although I talk about being accessibly priced, I'm still a high price within the channel. So within Whole Foods, I'm in the natural skincare set, which I think I might be the only independent Black-owned brand in the natural skincare set. And it's, $28. And so compared to the other, Eurovino $10 moisturizer. So there is a premium. So I really need to justify the cost, which is, it's a beautiful ingredient. It's the conscious approach. And so there is the storytelling that's necessary to ensure people understand, what I stand for and how I'm really undefining the space and doing things very differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Exciting times for you ahead with all of this growth and adding fuel to the fire with marketing and team and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be excited to watch you go from here.
Yeah, if there's anyone listening that, is loving my vision, wants to come join Team Undefined, definitely reach out because I need help.
Love that for you. Definitely reach out. At the end of every episode, we ask a series of 6 quick questions, some of which we might have covered, some of which we might not have, but I ask them all the same. So question number 1 is, what's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Being in the industry for a while, I've seen a lot of the areas for opportunity And I think that Undefined can do things different and be an example and pillar to other companies to change their mindset. Because, I am a small player, but if the L'Oreals and Estee Lauders of the world were to invest in conscious capitalism, that will be a game changer for small business, women-owned business, Black-owned business, LGBTQ business. Like, it can change the economic landscape. And so, although I'm starting, with one brand, one vision, I think there can be a trickle-down effect across the industry and give people access to high-quality products. Like, we all deserve it.
Yeah, we do. We all deserve that. Question number 2 is, what's been your favorite marketing moment so far?
Ooh, well, there hasn't necessarily been marketing moments because I haven't necessarily marketed. So that's a tough one. I think it was really exciting to see my brand on shelf at Target. And interestingly enough, so in a lot of the stores, they Target on their own accord, not related to me whatsoever. They create these little light boxes that have my products and Shea Moisture products, which feels like a full circle moment because that's who I used to work for at Sundial. So it was like I used to be an employee of this company. Now my products are merchandised right next to them at shelf at Target. So like that is kind of powerful as well. And I don't really ever talk about this, but coming out of business school, I actually had a job offer at Target to be a beauty buyer. And I turned it down for General Mills. And so it's also kind of a full circle moment that, now I am pitching to and doing business with the people that wanted to employ me.
Love it. Love it. Number 3 is, what's your go-to business resource in terms of a podcast or a book or a newsletter?
Ooh, actually, well, so I'm very curious, so I like to read a lot. I think I follow Beauty Independent's daily releases because I think they do a really good job, like Rachel and team, she's the editor, of really distilling what I, as an indie beauty entrepreneur, need to understand in terms of trends, what other businesses are doing, what's happening in the retail landscape. They create original content, but they also consolidate content across the space. And so that has been an invaluable resource. And they also have a weekly, it's not really a podcast, but like a weekly webinar where they bring on leaders across the industry to talk about specific topics. And I find those really valuable.
That's amazing. Is it a free newsletter or paid?
The newsletter is free. It's freemium. I think you get 5 free ones a month that you can access. And then there's also a paid portion. The weekly webinars are free. Like tomorrow, it's every Wednesday. And they're actually kind of fun because Nader, their founder, he's kind of a cornball and he's very he's kind of an acquired taste. He has unique humor, which can be kind of inappropriate, but I kind of like it. And so tomorrow it's focused on the evolution of retail. So they'll have people talk about, what's happening in retail. Last week it was how to drive business via TikTok, which is a very, important channel for beauty. And so it's these topics that are actually really important, and they bring really cool people to really tell their, brand story. Also, I hope this is not going to get me in trouble for saying this. To your point about, is it free? My little hack for those that are, scrappy entrepreneurs like myself, for platforms that have a freemium, open it in a private browser because then they'll never know how many you've seen.
Good little tip there for everyone listening. Don't tell anyone.
Or don't tell them. Don't tell them I told you.
Don't tell them. Yeah. Question number 4 is, how do you win the day? What are your AM or PM rituals that keep you feeling happy and successful and motivated?
Yeah. So I would say the ritual that has been a game changer is my gratitude practice, which I've been doing for a couple of years now. And the way the practice works is either in the morning or at night. I typically do it at night. I'll reflect on what I'm grateful for the day. And I actually keep a running, list in my phone, and it actually changes your mindset and reframes how I think about life because I'm looking for things to be grateful for. Because your thoughts determine your reality. And so that has been amazing. It's also like my diary because I have a note tracker in my phone, I could scroll down and be like, what was I thinking about 3 years ago today? And so it'll give me kind of a snapshot into like what was going on in my life. And it's not just business stuff, it'll be like personal stuff. And like yesterday, and I have an accountability circle that I share it with. So some of my sorority sisters and my best friend. And it'll be little things like, oh, I'm grateful for The Last Kingdom because the main character is sexy. So like it's little things like that, or business stuff. But also if I do it in the morning, it'll help frame me up for the day. So I haven't done it for today, but if I had, I could have been like, today I'm grateful for clear articulation so I can nail this podcast. And so it'll help, prime me for what I need, and it'll help me manifest it. Because again, I'm very spiritual. I also listen to a lot of tarot and astrology, which is my guilty pleasure. Like that's how I unwind.
I love that. I need to get onto this like gratefulness in my phone situation because I want to like look back. That's really cool. Very good idea.
Well, there's something to writing things down, either in a journal or like, in a digital context, because I think you solidify it when you actually see it.
I agree. 100%. Question number 5. What's been your worst money mistake?
I think early on in my sourcing strategy, a lot of the manufacturers that I would engage were actually other brands who I would meet at trade events. So I was at, it was Renegade, maybe in San Francisco, and the neighbor next to me had a soap brand, and her soaps were like flying off the shelf. And I'm like, let's partner and create a CBD soap. Cool. I'd done that same thing with a manufacturer out of Brooklyn. I was doing a Brooklyn event. And my learning was be careful who you partner with because they tried to extort me. And it was like this very strange situation where they wouldn't give me my empty packaging. And so I think just be careful and like read the signs, like the red flags in terms of who you partner with, because it can have downstream effects.
Oh my gosh. And what was the kind of like, if you had to put a number on the loss, what was the loss?
Oh, it wasn't huge. I ended up paying them, but it was like, okay, you're extorting me for like, I don't know, maybe it's like $300 just to get my inventory that I shipped them because we weren't going to do any additional runs because there was like a product issue. And so I'm like, we can't continue. And like, oh, well, if you want your packaging, give us money. And I'm like, who operates like that? But I recognize that karma is a bitch. So that's not how I choose to operate. And the universe will, do what the universe does if you don't, act professionally.
Gosh, holy moly. Last question number 6. What is just a crazy story you can share, good or bad, from your journey in business?
So I operate by closed mouths don't get fed. And so there's this amazing, we'll call her an influencer dermatologist called Dr. Dre. And I follow, when I'm not listening to my astrology and tarot YouTubes, I'll watch her YouTubes because they're very informational about, she gets down to like the nitty gritty and skincare. And so I saw in one of her YouTubes that she had like a P.O. box. And I'm like, I'm going to ship her some products just blindly. And so I shipped this product out and she fell in love with sun serum and like posted about it a couple of times. It's now had over 100,000 views. And that's what drove basically my inventory to be in the situation. And so it was random, it was free, and you never know. So take those shots because you're always, you're going to, what is it saying? You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So yeah, just do it.
Love it. Dorian, thank you so much for taking the time to come on Female Startup Club and share your journey and all your insights and learnings. I'm so stoked to see what happens next for you.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun to chat with you.